Today's discussion, how to take full control of the unconscious mind. Why is this of interest to us? Why are we here? This is a pretty good crowd for, especially out here in Logan. Normally in the city I get bigger numbers, but out here, not so much in the past. But today, we've got quite a few people here, which is nice. Good to see. So why the unconscious mind? We'll start over this side. This is Ben, everyone. G'day guys, how you going?
I just want to be able to take full control of my life.
Okay.
And I know that tapping into the unconscious gives me that opportunity.
Absolutely. Okay, the unconscious mind, how much of what we take in is unconscious, or how much of our mind is unconscious?
Is it 70%?
70%? Could be higher than that even. Some say 90%.
Really?
Some say 90% is unconscious. Well, if you look at it this way, there's about 2 million bits of information that our nervous system is taking in, absorbing every second. 2 million bits, and all we're aware of is about 134 bits. That's all that we're consciously aware of. So everything else comes in unconsciously. Now, if you were aware of everything at once, you'd probably go insane, because your brain wouldn't be able to handle it. It's too much information to absorb. And so our brain actually protects us. So we distort, delete, and generalize information as it comes. So if you've done psychology, they talk about stereotyping. So you see someone who dresses a certain way, who has, black eyeshadow and black lipstick. What do we call them?
Goth.
They're a goth. Okay. So once we see a goth, we go, okay, that's a goth. And then we think about other goths that we've known or heard about, and suddenly we just stereotype and put that person directly into that category. And that's a way to distort, delete, and generalize big chunks of information into something, an identity, and say, you are a goth, therefore I know who you are. It makes it really simple then. And so you might just glance and see the goth, but straight away you don't have to think about it, you've already done this unconsciously, and then you've moved on. Okay, so you've got all this information coming out, we're not aware of it all. Now, if we can take full control of our unconscious mind, what can that do? What can it do? Why would you want that?
Why?
Yeah, why would you want it?
To be able to live the life I want to live.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so taking control of the unconscious mind is the key to tapping into those things we want. Now, what are the 4 main areas of life? Physical health. We've got, the second would be relationships. The third would be financial health or financial well-being. And the fourth is spirituality, connectedness to God or your higher self or the universe, whatever you believe God to be. So those are the 4 main areas that I think about. Underlying all those areas, we'll talk about this a bit later, is emotion. Because when we can take control of our emotional health, then we can affect all those other areas. All right, why are you here?
Oh, why am I here?
Yes, Sarah.
Because it is. Because I want more.
You want more?
Yeah.
More of what?
More of life.
More of life.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to know more of me.
Uh-huh.
That's what I like.
So what more of you would make the biggest difference?
I don't know. That's why I'm here.
You're here to find out.
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't want to keep going. I've just come to a very pivotal change in my life, and I don't want to look back.
Absolutely.
I want to look forward. And so I don't want blinkers on my eyes. Yeah.
I'll tell you how Landmark Education teaches it. This Whitefield Market is. They actually teach it this way. They say that there's what we know, which is in that nice little circle, and then around that is what you don't know.
True.
And then outside of that is what you don't know you don't know.
Yeah, wow.
So you've got these 3 realms. So here we know stuff. We know where we live. We know where to go. We get to our job. We know which car we own. We know all these things in our life. We know different people. Then there's the ones we know that we don't know. There's things like you don't know the price of rice in China currently. Rice currency. So there's things that we don't know. We could probably look it up. In fact, what's making or helping us to learn more is the internet. We can Google anything these days. We have information at our fingertips. It's a great opening for the world. Okay, so straight away we've got increased understanding, increased knowledge at our fingertips. And so we can actually fill in this area quite easily now. If we don't know something, we know we don't know it, we can just look it up. And often Wikipedia or one of those sites has the answers for us. We can understand it. But out of this realm, how do you work that out? And that's what you're here for. So what you're suggesting is, you're here to find out what's here. I'm living this life, which is a reflection of what I'm thinking, believing, and feeling right now. What if I could get out here and start living, start pushing out on the boundary conditions of my life? Einstein said, we're boxed in by the boundary conditions of our thinking. Each of us live in a box. We don't know we're living in a box. but we live in a box. And so our perception of reality is actually a perception that's in a box. Now, some people have found out and discovered how to eliminate or get rid of that box. They rise above these circumstances which were placed upon them. That's where you get these people that come from poverty and suddenly they're multi-billionaires. And people say, how did you do it? How they did it was they got out of the box. How they did it was they started thinking a different way. But they didn't know how to think a different way because nobody taught them. This isn't taught in school. You don't learn how to think differently in school. In school, it's actually run on, there's a system called the Prescience system, which was introduced in about 1920. And this Prescience system at school is basically what school teaching is founded on today. And it's a linear approach to learning. It's you learn the letters, then you learn the words, then you put the words into sentences, you make structures, and it's this linear type learning that we go through. Now, this is another type of learning. We'll get to that shortly, how this actually works and how it can change our life. Pretty exciting?
Yeah.
I love it. It's very good. Linda, why are you here?
I am here for growth.
For growth.
Because I've been to a few ones, so I just need to continue along the path.
Now, what happens when you stop continuing along that path?
Stop growing.
You stop growing. What does that do for your life?
Well, nothing changes.
Nothing
Stay the
changes.
same.
And how do you feel when that happens?
I'm not as happy as I could be. I don't have a feeling of accomplishment or success as I normally do.
There's two things that we all need for fulfillment. If we want fulfillment in life, there's two things that we must have. The first one is growth. And that's exactly what we were just talking about. Growth is necessary for fulfillment. If you're not growing, the old saying goes, you're dying. If you're not growing, you're dying. So we must have growth in our life. Now the second one is giving or serving or contributing to the world around us. Those two things, that's what we need for fulfillment. So if you're not growing, if you're not pushing yourself with a learning, and it can be through books and seminars, and it can be through webcam and Facebook. What's different though is that in Facebook and webinars, you don't have the human interaction that we can get in a group like this. The other thing that you don't get from Facebook, and as good as it is, and as good as looking at webinars and all these things, in fact, they talk about webinars as being the way of the future. Everything's going to go to webinars, and suddenly there'll be no need for this. Everything will be done, meetings, everything over the webinar. Anyway, a person from America, well-known speaker, came to Australia to share about how great webinars were. And guess how he did it? In a seminar. So he spent all day in a seminar teaching everyone how great webinars were. Now, something didn't compute. Why wouldn't he have done it on a webinar? If webinars were so great, why didn't he create a webinar? He actually went back to what works, and what works is seminars. Now, the reason seminars are so powerful, and the reason why that growth will continue for you, Melinda, if you keep coming to groups, is you need people. You need human interaction, and you need human emotion. You see, when you're in a group like this, you get to feel alongside the person next to you. Did you know that every one of you, when you go through an emotion in your body, you emit energy. You emit energy from your body. It's up to about 8 meters around your body. You're emitting energy. That's why when somebody walks in a room and they're deeply depressed, they don't have to say it. You don't even need to see them walk in. Sometimes you can feel it. Who's been there? Who's experienced something like that? Or somebody's overjoyed with happiness and they walk into a room and suddenly you feel the energy in the room lift. That's how powerful energy and human emotion is. And that's why I believe that these type of meetups and also seminars will continue. Because we need that human interaction. We need the emotion. We need to feel each other's energy.
Well, I reckon kids aren't learning how to communicate now. They're actually losing the skills. So
That's because
that's
they're on
because of
technology straight away.
technology.
Technology's up, communication sometimes down. I agree with that. Chris.
Well, mate, to expand what I already know,
Excellent.
I'm a man of faith, and through my life I've exercised that. I want to exercise more faith,
Okay.
greater achievements. I can achieve with the mind what people can achieve with their bodies. I haven't got the body now to achieve. I've got the mind.
Ah.
So I can still achieve. And accomplish.
Yeah. Excellent, excellent. So
awesome.
I have an attitude now, it's so easy to be a millionaire.
There's something that I share with people called the faith continuum. And in the faith continuum, what we have here, you could call it the belief continuum, but I like the word faith continuum because it's belief in action, belief in motion is the word faith. Now, when you think about this, you've got fear, doubt, and limited self-belief down one end of the scale. There's an author by the name of Dennis Waitley, and he wrote a book called The Psychology of Winning. And in that book, he said there are 3 resistors, or 3 things that stop mental effectiveness. There are 3 things that prevent us from achieving. And one of them wasn't the body. He said it was laziness, fear, and then the third one, and most important one, was limited self-belief. If you have a doubt in yourself, that's going to stop you from achieving. And if you have faith or belief, the more faith and belief you can have, the more you can achieve. Now in the middle we've got hopes and dreams. Hopes and dreams are great.
They're important. They're
Important.
important on the path.
Good to have. They're going to get you away from fear, doubt, and laziness. They will move you up the scale, but it's not it. This is not what's going to change your life. This is not what's going to show you what's in here. It's not enough. It's just the beginning. See, what we need to do is raise our standard. And I know a lot of us think that we're living at the edge of what we can do, but we're not. Because there's always another level. So whatever peak you get to, there's always another level. And you find that when you get to that peak, you go, what's next? And there's always something else. There's always another journey, another peak. Okay, so...
A little book, Jonathan Livingston Seagull, excellent.
Yeah.
It talks about breaking through the barriers,
Correct.
and that's what it is.
So at the top of this scale, we have total conviction and absolute knowledge. Total conviction and absolute knowledge. That's strong. Is it strong? Yeah, but that's what we need. If we're going to take control of any area of our life, and we attack it with fear, doubt, limited self-belief, we get nowhere. We don't even start. We don't even get off the ground. If we do it with hopes and dreams, it's like the, what do they call it? That several years ago they talked about manifesting your future, the law of attraction. And a lot of people did this law of attraction and found it did work. You know why? Because the law of attraction works here. It works with hopes and dreams. And the law of attraction, whilst good, whilst getting us away from fear, doubt, and laziness, it's not the best. You're only halfway along your journey with the law of attraction.
Yeah.
What they should have named it as was the law of action. You see, what they missed was the key component, which is action. See, when you put the law of attraction and then you put the action and then you attack that with absolute knowledge and total conviction, like it will work. It doesn't matter if it hasn't worked 100 times. It doesn't matter whether you're like David Edison with the light bulb, you failed 9,999 times. You know, they said that it took between 1,000 or 10,000 times for him to get the light bulb to work. It doesn't matter if you failed that many times, you keep going until. That's what absolute knowledge and total conviction is all about. You keep going until. There is no stopping. There is no stopping. Okay, so that's where we can get to. And if we can get to that area, that's when your life begins to soar. In all areas of life. Whether it be physically, emotionally, spiritually, with relationships. We need to attack it to see what's possible and then go for it. With everything. And when we fail, we get up, we dust ourselves off, we go again. With more energy, more excitement. It's that never give up attitude. You like that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the faith continuum. That's something. And I'll tell you, these ideas, some of these things, and you won't read this in any book. You won't read that in any book. Because that came to me. This was just one of those moments where you have those big aha things. And most of the material that I teach, or a lot of it, is like that. I've done the research, I've done the study, but then eventually it's just come to me into my mind as either a vision or a step-by-step structure. And it often happens when I'm running my dog. I'm out with the dog running, and I'm just opening myself up to the universe to allow information to flow. And when it begins to flow, when it's right, it just goes, wow. It clicks. It happens. Leonie, why are you here?
I was just going to say, that eliminates worry. You know, when you've got absolute conviction,
Mhm.
it eliminates worry, and that's what I've found.
Well, it's
And
fear
I've actually
recovery.
got absolute conviction in some things now that you've taught me, and it's achieving, it's working, because I don't have to worry about failure. Failure's good, it's just a step. Oh, okay, I failed, so what, doesn't matter.
Failure is good because you're
Yeah.
moving. At least you're doing
Yeah, it's
something to
awesome.
fail.
So while I'm here, there's a couple of things. Number one is, instead of reacting to everything that happens around me, is to take action. And
Yes.
that was one thing, I was in that mode of reacting,
Yes.
you know, being acted upon by everything, and, you know, and just, well, whereas now, I have got taken control.
You're going with the
Yeah,
flow.
it doesn't matter. And the other thing is that I'm feeling emotions. I went through a period of my life, I felt nothing.
Yes.
I was dead. And now, I said to Chris the other night, I said, I can feel really happy. I can feel it. I've got that feeling. And then if I feel sad, I can actually feel sadness. You know, so I'm actually feeling deep emotions, which is something I went through many years with nothing. No
This is
emotion.
a very interesting topic. If you think about the unconscious mind does something in our body and in our emotions to protect us. See, when a person goes through a traumatic experience, the unconscious mind can actually box that experience away. We call that a repressed memory. And when it boxes it away, it actually does that for our protection. It does it for our protection. Now, there's certain triggers which may bring back that memory. And so what your body does is it works out what emotions are bringing that back, and it shuts down those emotions.
Yeah.
And throughout your life, you can actually have emotions shut off or shut down because it begins to trigger that traumatic experience. So a traumatic experience left undealt with can actually destroy or hurt your spirit in the here and now. And it can cause you to feel less than you'd want to feel. So the more trauma you've had, the more heartache, the more sorrow. I know with my grandmother, she lost her husband when she was a young woman. He was only in his 30s, I believe, and a tree fell on him. He was a wood chopper. And the tree swung around and ended his life prematurely. Now, after that happened, she became very stoic. Stoic was the word. And what happened was she got rid of all the emotions of absolute joy so that she didn't have to feel so much pain ever again in her life. And so what happens is she became very level and even with her emotions. And so a traumatic experience can actually cause us to shut down. And what happens is our experience of life then can become less than what it could potentially be, because we've shut down. And our unconscious mind does that to protect us. So understand, it's actually doing you a favour. It's trying to help you.
So I don't need that anymore. I don't need that shutting
But
down.
it
of
can be a
emotions,
crutch.
because it's just flowing.
Because you're working through
Yeah.
those issues and those traumas. Now, if we
Yeah.
can work through them, if we can make different decisions, and here's what it comes down to. It's making different decisions about a traumatic event.
Yeah.
You see, a traumatic event that we go through, at the time we go through it, our unconscious mind makes a decision about that, and that becomes the reality of that situation. So it's not the situation itself, but it's the decision we make, because we're meaning-making machines. We make meaning of everything in our world. We create meaning. So something traumatic happens, you make that mean generally something about yourself, and it's usually I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not this enough, I'm not that enough. It's usually something like that happens. It's usually a self-defeating type self-talk that happens. So when we do that, and we continue living life that way, we're shut down emotionally. Or we can be shut down emotionally. So what we do is we go back, and one of the techniques that I do, it's actually called a decision destroyer. And so we go back just before the decision, we then raise up above. If you've heard of timeline work, I do this with neuro-linguistic programming. We do a bit of timeline work. So we raise above the timeline, we look down on the incident, and then we get all the learnings from the incident. Once we've got all the learnings from it, we make a new decision. Once we've made a new decision, we then come forward, but only as fast as we make changes along the way in our past. So what we do is we reprogram, so to speak, some of those other traumatic experiences that may have resulted from the first one, if that makes sense. Once we do that, we come back to now, we look out in the future, we then paint a more brilliant, brighter future. And so we can actually deal with trauma. Welcome, come on in. Yes, come on in, take a seat, right here. We're waiting for you. No worries. So, where was I? My train of thought. So we go on, we change it. Once we've made a new decision, we usually have a new feeling, a new thought about the incident, a new way of processing it, which then frees up our unconscious mind to actually let us deal with it or let it go. Does that make sense? In fact, you don't even need to deal with it. Once you've changed the decision, once you've made a new decision, and you tell your unconscious mind that you're happy with that that's the new way of looking at it, then your unconscious mind will follow along and go, okay, great. And that's it with trauma. It's actually not that difficult. A lot of people get stressed about trauma. Now, in saying this, I haven't dealt with really, really severe trauma. And I'm going steadily with that one because you don't want to obviously deal with someone who's gone through something absolutely, absolutely horrific and hit a trigger on that. So what they'll do.
Or time, like
Yeah.
over 20 or 30 years, the traumas continue.
Whereas what I don't do is go and deal directly with the trauma. In fact, some psychologists do that. Let's talk about your trauma. No. What you're doing is you're bringing up all those negative feelings with it. So that's why I go before the trauma. That's what life coaching does. We go before the trauma, we then deal with that, we then change it in the mind, in the unconscious mind, then we come forward. And we paint a new picture. Does that sound good?
Yes.
It's a great way to deal with it. It
That's
really is.
how I have
You don't actually attack the trauma itself, because that's, it's beyond most of us to
Yeah.
deal directly with it. Okay, let's move on.
Curiosity.
Curiosity. Isn't curiosity a great thing? Why curiosity?
Well, I've got to the stage in life now where I'm quite happy with my life,
Yes.
but I'd like to move it on to probably a different level.
Once again, growth.
Yeah.
If you're not growing, if you're not learning, if you're not expanding yourself, you're dying.
I mean, not just for me, but for my friends and family.
Wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful. And the idea is the more you know and the more you learn, the more you can help them. And you're someone who loves to help others? Well, great. So the more you learn, obviously the more you've got to give. And those are the two great things for fulfillment. You grow and then you serve. You grow and contribute to others. So keep that process going. Can retire from work, can retire, but don't retire from life.
Oh, no.
And some people do. They retire from life within
I
6
know.
to 12 months.
No.
They're in the box, okay? Because they're retired. They're retired from life. And we don't want to do that. But I love the idea of curiosity. See, the curiosity brings us back to it's a childlike state. It's an early learning state.
But we go on learning all our lives.
What's that?
We go on learning all our
We
lives.
do. Do some people stop being curious though as they get older? Yeah.
Stop
Imagining.
Imagination, the faculties of imagination, curiosity. I love just sitting down and fantasizing about where I'm going to be in 5 years. I love that. That's exciting to me.
You're well aware that the society that is surrounding us serves to squash our creativity, our childlike nature.
Yes.
When you say curiosity kills the cat.
You
You know,
know,
it's all these
yes,
things
yes,
It's an
to beat down that inner child, so it takes a lot.
You need to educate
As a
that
full-grown
child.
adult, you nurture that child to
It's
bring it
really
back in.
interesting in early learning, before children go to school, we actually are taught to foster the creativity and the imagination. We're taught to foster that. As soon as we send to the school, it becomes structured. And it's like, sit down, shut up, listen, learn,
Draw
Just
between
do
lines, do whatever.
We're fostering up
You're
until
taught in school.
5-year-old to have the creativity and the imagination. I work in childcare, so it's funny. It's definitely a different structure in school.
I remember I saw a picture on Facebook. You know the Walking Dead, the series,
Yes, absolutely.
and it was a picture of guys sitting on their desk, and it's called The Working Dead.
The working dead.
That's what we do.
How about the living dead? You know, people are alive, but are they actually living? Are they there?
The lights aren't on.
They just haven't fallen over you.
95.
Yeah, that's what
They're dead, but they're still vertical. Excellent.
Don't bump them. Straight in the box.
It's like a woman waiting for the perfect man. She's
Yeah.
sitting there on the seat and she becomes a skeleton.
She's got a picture.
Don't wait for the perfect man.
Yeah, never going to find out the one that's perfect for you. You did it perfect.
Excellent. So moving on. Moving on.
The one that's perfect for me, not the perfect man.
Yeah, the one that's, that's what I just said.
It's the control.
Sorry.
How do you go about the techniques for doing it? The tools and techniques? Okay, very good. Very good. We'll certainly share a couple of those things today. We can't go deep into it. That'll be the seminar. We go into a much deeper level.
I am just getting exposed to, as you said, I don't know what I don't know. So by exposing myself, and I mean, there's always something to learn.
Yeah, there is. I went to a seminar just down at the Gold Coast. After attending that seminar, I came back and I signed up a client just the next week using a technique that he did for $6,800. Within the next couple of weeks, I was like, far out, that actually worked. Because I picked up something that he said and I thought, I'm going to try that. I did it and it worked. Pretty good, hey?
That's the tools.
Yeah, I'm thinking, wow, this is really good. It's,
Just be aware of what my unconscious mind is thinking and how to change that.
yeah. How to change what your conscious mind is thinking.
Unconscious mind is thinking.
Your unconscious mind.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the, yeah, because there's two thoughts that we have. Everyone knows that? Yeah, there's the thoughts you know about and the thoughts you don't know about. That's the unconscious mind. Is a thought, there's thinking that's happening and you don't even know about it. It's happening below the surface, below the level of conscious thought. For example, you probably are not aware of
Breathing.
the beat of your pulse in your left ankle. Maybe you are aware of it now that I mentioned it. Do you ever think about the left ankle? Yeah. So isn't it interesting? There's things that we don't know about, but our unconscious mind is doing all of this. It's our unconscious mind that beats our heart more than 100,000 times a day. Our unconscious mind breathes us, sleeps us, grows our hair and fingernails. We don't have to consciously think about any of that. It's all done. When you get a cut, your unconscious mind sends everything that needs to happen in order for you to repair whatever's going on. Your unconscious mind controls this, the system. We don't have to think about it. But we can take control of it the more we practice the skills and the tools. The next and right back. What are you here?
Passive.
What's your name?
My name is Mayumi.
Mayumi.
I always I'm curious about subconscious, and I believe subconscious has lots of knowledge which I don't know, and it's nice to gather that knowledge and skills into the surface to utilize in the daily life to make my life better.
She's made a really good point there. With the unconscious mind, we can actually tap into what's called universal knowledge. Everyone know what I'm talking about there? So we're tapping into the infinite. We're tapping into a knowledge that is unlimited. Because it's believed that our unconscious mind actually knows everything.
Is that why over different parts of the world, the same different people can have the same thought?
I'm sure that could have something to do with it.
I've heard that.
I'm sure that's possible. We know about people communicating through telepathy, mental telepathy. We know about different things that happen. So, yeah, absolutely. But what there is there's the mind, is what it's referred to. And the mind is a universal source of all knowledge and all truth. It would be God of the universe, but when we tap into that, we know everything. And if we can tap into our unconscious mind actually knows everything. Much more than we could possibly know. And so that's the idea, is to tap into that. There was a time in the city, one of the seminars, I don't know if you were there at that one, but it was one of the city where I was speaking and suddenly there was information I'd never thought of, I'd never taught before, and I just started speaking and this information was coming out of me and I'm like, what is this? But it felt right. I got this feeling in my body that it was right and I kept going. And I felt as though I was being a conduit for God or the mind or knowledge, and it was flowing through me. So I'd gone to the very edge of what I knew. I'd gone to the limit of, you know, this circle, what I know and what I know I don't know. I was in here talking about things that I knew. And suddenly I went out into here, and the things that I didn't know, and then I started going out to here. And I started speaking from this place, and I'm telling you, it was just an amazing experience. And after that seminar, nobody left. Everyone just stayed there. I don't know what happened, and I've been striving to repeat that again, because it was like amazing. I never experienced that quite like that before. I have had experiences like that before, but that was really, in this sort of setting, it was the first time that had happened. And it was really good. I hooked into the mind, because our unconscious mind, you're right, knows everything. And all we need to do is tap into that, and then we have that knowledge. It's incredible. Yes. Why are you here? What's your name?
Irene.
Irene.
Get myself out of the box. What my intentional believing and curious about what else I can be.
Yeah.
Good. Excellent. And what's your name again?
Emily.
Emily.
Yeah, more about understand, what the thoughts and how can tap into that unconscious mind to be more mindful.
Very good. Very good. All right. Let's begin. There was, I'd like to ask a question. And the question is, what will you be remembered for? What will you be remembered for? There was a funeral held some years ago, and an old gentleman had passed away. And at the funeral service, the funeral director did not know the man. So he asked his audience, he said, who knew this man well that can tell us some stories of his life and achievements? And no one stood forward. And he said, well, who can tell us of something exemplary he did, or some achievement he made? Or, nobody stood forward. And he went through a number of things, and nobody came forward. And he said, look, can anybody at least say something positive about the man? And one fellow stepped forward and he said, well, he wasn't as bad as his brother. Will you be remembered as someone who's very fit and strong? For some people, the only exercise they get is jumping to conclusions, sidestepping responsibility, running down their friends, or pushing their luck. One man says that he sits up, he does 10 sit-ups every morning. That's how many times he sits up to press a snooze when he's alarm. One fellow said that when he feels like exercise, he just lays completely still and waits for the feeling to pass. There was a man who walked into a bar, ouch, and he spoke to the bartender. And behind the bartender, he saw this big jar of money, and he asked the bartender, what's that money for? The bartender said, that's for the club challenge. He said, what's the club challenge? He said, we see Bruno over there. Bruno was standing by the double doors, big arms the size of tree trunks. He said, well, Bruno comes over and squeezes a lemon. And he gets every drop of juice out of it. And he says, if you can get one more drop out of that juice, you win all that money. The man throws his $50 on the counter and says, I'll take the challenge. Anyway, Bruno comes over, grabs the lemon and squeezes it with all his might. After several seconds, he throws it lifeless on the counter. There's no colour left. It's turned from yellow to white. Anyway, this man, not deterred by this, picked up the lemon and began to squeeze. He used every bit of ounce of strength he had, and he got a drop out of it. Followed by a second, third, fourth, fifth, 6 drops. The crowd was in uproar. This had never been done. Well, it had been done once before, but not since 1973 with Chuck Norris. But anyway, when he finished, they said, who are you? Are you a logger? Are you a forester? He said, no, I'm a tax collector. Will you be remembered as a risk taker? There was one man, he said to his mate, he said, take this gun, walk into that bank, fire a few shots in the air, fill up this bag full of money, come out, I'll be waiting in the car, and remember, I'm the one taking all the chances. He said, what are you talking about? He says, you want me to take the gun, walk in, fire a few shots in the air, get all the money, come out, jump in the car, and you're the one taking the chances? He said, how come you're the one taking the chances? The other man says, well, I can't drive. Will you be remembered as someone who laughs at yourself? I was a kickboxing promoter, and for many years I would train up guys to go into kickboxing events. Some women too, not for kickboxing events, but I would do training. And this one fellow I remember particularly, Josh was his name, and really tall, skinny fellow, lanky, good trainer, a little bit clumsy, but otherwise good. Anyway, trained him up, got him ready for a ring fight. We worked at every move that we could. There's only one thing I forgot to teach Josh, and that was how to get into the kickboxing ring. Now we walked up to the ring, the music was blaring, and it was me as the trainer was to show him how to get into the ring. Now because he was tall and lanky, I thought we'll go over the top. Because there's 2 ways to get in, right? You go over the top or you go through the middle. Now I decided we'd go over the top because he's lanky. So I pushed down as hard as I could on these ropes, and the ropes moved about 2 inches. The ropes were very taut, they were very strong. Anyway, Josh was standing there with his gloves on and looking at the rope, trying to work out what to do, how to get over this thing. Now you've got to remember that with gloves, boxing gloves, there's webbing between the thumb and the finger. Very hard to grip things. Also, the gloves, you've lost all sensitivities. Anyway, he grabbed the rope with both hands, and I don't know what went through his mind, but he decided to jump. Now everything was going fine until his hand slipped off. The next thing that happened was his toes clipped the top rope and he came smashing down face first straight on his face. Now, if you've ever been to a kickboxing tournament, often you'll hear the crowd cheering when somebody gets knocked out and something good happens, but you'll never hear them cheering, clapping and laughing at the same time. And that's exactly what happened. It was just tremendous. I still think, in fact, I was going over this story last night in my mind and I was cracking myself up just thinking about it. It was the funniest thing, if you can imagine. And Josh was fantastic. You know what he did? He didn't cry, he didn't get upset, he got up and he was laughing along with everybody. And I thought, what a great thing. What a great thing to have is that ability to laugh at yourself. Who's done some silly things? Who's had people see what you've done? Yeah. And it's awful, isn't it? But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Laugh at yourself. So just think about that. What will you be remembered for? The ability to laugh at yourself is a great thing. Now, who thinks living on the planet is expensive? Just think about it this way. Every year, each of you get a free trip around the sun.
That's a good way of thinking about it, though.
So, there was let's switch gears here for a moment, because I'd like to talk to you about an energy company in America. And in this energy company, there was a loss of power. The manager went and spoke to his best employees and he said, we need to find out what's causing this loss, because it was costing him thousands of dollars every single day in loss of productivity. So he sent them out to find the problem. They came back empty-handed. He decided that he would need to go call an expert in. So he contacted the expert, and within a couple of days the expert had arrived. He was wearing a white suit, a clipboard, and for the next 2 days he just walked around the power plant back and forth from the control room looking for the problem. On the second day, he called the manager into the control room where there was a dial. He walked over the dial with a pen and he said to the manager, he said, there's your problem. He drew an X on the dial. He said, there's your problem. He said, find out what computer, what device is hooked up to this dial, replace it, and the problem will be solved. That's exactly what happened. So he went out, he replaced it, fixed it up, and the problem was resolved. It was only a few days later that a bill arrived in the mail. A bill for services rendered. Now the bill came to $15,000. The manager was taken back a bit. He's like, what? 2 days? Walking around with a clipboard, taking a few notes, drawing this, and he wants to charge me $15,000. So he was a bit upset about this, and so he wrote back to him and said, please itemise your bill. A couple of days later, the new email arrived, and as he looked through the email, it said, drawing dial on X, $1. But then it said something interesting. Knowing where to draw the X. $14,999. This is the critical thing. We need to know not just where the issue may lay. No, let me change that. We need to know where the issue lies, and we need an expert, or we need someone who can show us the problem. See, a lot of people are like this energy company where there's issues in their life, but you're too close to the situation that you cannot see the issues. So you try and work out, well, what I need to do, what I need to change. And so we do all this self-development, self-improvement. Who's a self-development, self-improvement person here? We love it, get right into it, get stuck into it, enjoy it, go over and over again. However, without direction, sometimes it's like this manager speaking to his best people, looking for the solution and coming up empty-handed. Who's had that situation? Where you're looking, searching, not being able to find it.
Wanting to change it, but knowing what to change.
It's like,
How?
It's like trying to get someone in to fix your relationship, and that person being yourself. You know, you're the person who put you in that situation. How could you then rely on yourself to get you out of it? You know what I mean? We put ourselves into situations, then we think, well, I'll just get myself out. Well, do you know how to do that? Do you know how to stop what you're currently doing? Do you know how to think differently? It's a very, very difficult thing to do. And so, let's have a look. There's an old saying that says, sow a thought, reap an action.
There's a sow, there's a sow, not E.
Oh, is it so?
There's no.
So,
No, it's not the
seeds.
also seeds. So,
Yeah.
excellent, thank you. Sow a thought, reap an action. We got that? Everyone understands that? Every thought leads to action. Or a thought can lead to action. Not necessarily, but thoughts lead to actions. We sow an action. What do we reap? We sow an action.
Consequence?
If we follow an action over and over again, we actually turn that action into a habit. So an action repeated becomes a habit. Now, some people say it's 21 days to make a habit. Right? That's actually incorrect. They've done some further studies on that, and they found that the average is about 66. 66 repetitions is average on forming a habit. Okay, some people 200, 200 plus, some people 10. It depends on the person, but the average was 66. And so when you're doing something, repeat it over and over again until that thing becomes automatic. Okay, sow an action, reap a habit. So a habit. What do we reap? A reward. Yeah. Sow a habit, character. Next one is character. So we sow a habit, we reap a character. So if you repeat habits in your life over and over again, that leads to character. If you think about the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Everyone heard that? The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? I'll run through those quickly. Now, there's a reason that he focused here on habits. There's a reason, because actions don't cut it. Because an action needs to be repeated probably minimum 66 times to form a habit. So what he's focusing on is habits. Let's create habits of success, because what will that create? A successful character. Someone who wakes up and they think a certain way. Okay, so he focused on the habits. So what were the habits? The first one was, does anyone know the habits? The first one was to be proactive. First one is be proactive. I might write these down. These are good to know. Be proactive. Good place to start. This is the missing key ingredient for the law of attraction. Be proactive. You've got to actually do it. You can't sit at home dreaming about your mansions above. You've got to actually put it into practice. It's great to have a dream board. Dream boards work. They absolutely work. They work to the extent it gets our unconscious mind and our conscious mind thinking about it. Then we've got to solidify that with action, and with good action. Now, in life coaching, sorry, I'm going off on a bit of tangent, but in life coaching there's 3 parts to this. There's state, our emotional state. There's the story that we play out. And then there's also the strategy that we take. So when we're proactive, we must have be in a good state, which means we've got to be in a good emotional state. We've got to be in a good place. If you're proactive, but you're feeling sad, or you're feeling angry, you're going to produce different actions. You're going to produce different results than if you go out there feeling happy and joyful and light. Okay, so that's very important. Be proactive. We want to actually have a good state. We want to live in a beautiful state as much as we can. So we practice getting excited. We practice these things. In fact, every morning, those of you who know me know that I do this, but I actually get excited twice every morning. I get excited. I practice getting excited because I want to live in a great state so that when I put action to what I want to do, what I want to create, I've got that excitement inside me. And it's genuine, it's real. In 2015, I sat in a Tony Robbins seminar and I opened the booklet before the seminar began and I read about somebody that was excited for 20 years and I thought, what a load of rubbish. Everybody has bad days. It's impossible to actually feel genuine excitement every day. It's impossible. And that was my limited belief right there. After doing the seminar, now having gone 2.5 years of practicing excitement, I know that it's absolutely possible. See, my idea was changed. This was in the realm of what I didn't even know was possible. And how do I do it? I'll show you. 1, 2, 3. Yes! Yeah! I just get excited like that every morning. I do that twice a day. Does that feel weird? This is not the sort of thing I do out in public, just so you know. I don't walk in the street going like that because people will lock me up. They put people in places called funny farms when they do that. But I do that at home by myself every morning because what happens is it sends a good feeling through my body and I actually feel excited.
Well, you felt it.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole atmosphere changed.
You can feel it. Remember 8
I
meters?
still feel it.
8 meters. 8 meters, you can feel it.
I felt like jumping
That's
on the door
genuine.
myself.
That's genuine excitement. Was it genuine day one? Yes, it was. But there's been little bits in between where you go ups and downs, but I just forced myself through it. Okay? I say, no, I'm getting excited today. But I don't feel like it. No, I'm doing it anyway. So we practice it. Okay, so be proactive. Means we get ourselves into a good state of mind and emotion. The second thing is story. And the third one is strategy. Now, a story is our why, and a strategy is our how. So you could say this one is just why, and this one's how. Right, I go into much further depth in the seminar. In this is just going to be a brief overview, just so you get a taste. After Be Proactive, he taught, begin with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind.
So you've got to have a goal, basically.
Begin with the end in mind.
Where are you going to? What are
A
you
goal,
aiming for?
also a vision. Also a vision. So what got there, what we're talking about also is vision. So a goal is great, but a vision is more powerful. Okay, goal's good, visions are even better. So that vision is just, can I see it? Can I hear it? Can I feel it? Can I taste it? Can I touch it? You see, we put all our senses in. What are our senses? We've got visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory, and auditory digital, which is our self-talk. Those are the 6 components of your focus. So if you can get all of those components of your focus heading towards this vision, if it's so powerful that you can smell it, you can taste it. You know, people say, I can taste the success. I can smell it, the smell of victory. What they're doing is they're getting all of their senses involved. That's all you have. This is how you interpret reality, is through your senses. And so if you can get all of these headed towards this vision, you can create a compelling vision. And when it's a compelling vision, you can be pulled towards it. There's 2 types of motivation. There's push motivation, pull motivation. Anyway, I won't go into that. But what we want, the most powerful is pull motivation, is that your vision is so strong that it's like a magnet. It's so strong, it's like a magnet and it pulls you towards it. Rather than having to push yourself out of bed every morning and push yourself to do those things or make those phone calls. You want your future, this vision, to be so compelling that it's like a magnet pulling you towards it. And then it becomes effortless. It becomes easy. You go into a state called flow. Begin with the end in mind. The next one is put first things first. This is actually our strategy. Put first things first. Make sure that step 1 is before step 3. When you climb a ladder, you must begin at the bottom and move up that ladder step by step. You can't go out today, for example, if you've got no business training and create a multi-million-dollar company without any training. You can't do it. Okay, you might have this belief, but I believe I can. No. There's a lot of skills that you need in order to do that. And so it's no good getting all excited and getting this energy in your body and then going out and thinking you can do anything. You know, it's true, you can do everything. But there's still steps. You've still got to go up this ladder. and you can't start here at the top of the ladder. Like you might see someone like Tony Robbins, who's a great motivational speaker and speaks in front of thousands of people and say, I want to do what he does. Tony Robbins started here. And he moved up step by step by step by step. And so we can't come along and say, I want to do what he does and be here. No. It doesn't work that way. You've got to go step by step by step by step. So that's where we put first things first. We strategize, we work out exactly what's required, we put the components in place, then we start moving forward. Does that make sense? Okay. So they're the ones for self. These are the habits that he had for the self. These are all habits for self.
Can I ask a
Yes.
question?
Sure.
I understand what you said, but me or maybe many people have trouble with that second thoughts, having vision and having vision board or try to see picture, like for example, I want to buy a house. So kind of beautiful house I want to have or live
Yes.
in, and then looking at the picture and try to visualize, but I might have like self-doubt, oh, it's nice to live, but I may not be able to buy the house, I may not have enough money, and that is overwhelming
Yes.
than the good feelings. How
Yes.
do you overcome
Yes.
that?
Yeah,
So what you've got is, remember we said the components of our focus are 1, visual, 2, auditory, 3, kinesthetic, our feelings, 4th is olfactory, gustatory, and the 6th one, the last 6th one is auditory digital. So what she's talking about is the auditory digital component, which is her self-talk. Now a lot of times our self-talk, what does our self-talk do? Our self-talk, so once you think you want to do something, your self-talk says, no, you're an idiot. No, you're too slow, you're this, you're that. Who's had those thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, this is real. Self-talk. How do we deal with self-talk? Okay, I'll share with you something else I learned. And this is something that I do each morning. I actually had a client this morning between 6 and 8. So I already did 2 hours life coaching this morning. And when my client came in, she had a limited belief, and we did some work around that. But I also taught her how to take control of that digital component part of her brain. Okay, so one, we change the belief. That's the first thing we do. We change the belief that it's possible. See, at the moment you're doubting whether it's possible. Is that true?
Sorry.
Are you doubting whether it's possible for you to have a house? What is the actual doubt?
Try to ignore the doubt, but
No, don't tell me what you're doing. You misunderstood the question. I said, what is the actual doubt? What is that little voice telling you about yourself? Be honest.
may not be able to do it.
You may not be able to, or you damn right can't.
For whatever.
You can't. So your little voice is telling you you can't do it. Is that you got a kind voice? He's just saying you can't do it. That's a very kind voice. My voice is really. He gives it to you. Yeah. Mine uses 4-letter explanatory sometimes. He's not very nice. My little voice. Is there anything else your little voice says?
It has to feel or hear or taste or try to just visualize or see the.
You're telling me how you're coping or how you're trying to get past the voice, but what I'm trying to ask you is, what is the voice telling you? You see, the first thing we need to do is recognize and acknowledge what's going on. We've got to be honest. See, a problem well stated is a problem half solved. If we can't state or articulate the issue, how can we solve it? It's the same with management, in business, in a workplace, in a relationship. Unless you can pinpoint what's going on, there's no resolution. So what exactly is the voice saying to you?
I don't know, may not be that clear.
It may not be that clear. Okay, it's
You
just
said before that no money was one thing. No nothing.
Ah,
Just
okay.
no
question
money.
of current situation.
Yep. So you have no money, is that true?
Not enough.
No, enough, yeah.
But don't you then visualise robbing a bank?
Yeah, try it.
You got a good sense of humour.
Yeah, and then you visualise bars. That's part of your vision board, too.
But then you go home. You don't know.
No money. So you could have the voice saying, oh, it's too expensive, or it's too much.
Yeah, too expensive.
Too expensive, it's too much. Do you ever think, I'll never get there? It's too far away, it's too hard, it's too difficult, I have to make too many sacrifices. All these things. Now, some of them are probably true. Are they true, some of them?
Could be.
Yeah, because your self-talk actually, it's there to protect you. It's like I said before, you know how unconscious mind boxes things away? That little voice is actually there to protect you. And so people say, can't you get rid of the voice? And you know what I do? I help turn the voice down, but I never get rid of it completely. Because you need that voice. That voice is going to keep you safe when you're about to walk in front of a truck. That voice is going to keep you safe. That voice is going to tell you when there's danger around. That voice is going to tell you when you need to do something or think of something. That voice is going to protect you from making that really bad financial decision where you lose all your money. That voice is a good voice. Okay, but you've got to know when to listen to the voice and when to tell the voice to leave. So who's got the voice in their head now? Who can hear that little voice? Who said things in their mind about the speaker, about me? How funny I look, and why I'm not in a suit today, and why I'm so casual. Who said things about that joke wasn't that funny? Why did I tell that one? Yeah. So these little voices happening all the time, right? And that's okay. Now,
I just want to know, what's the difference between the voice and the gut feeling? Is the gut feeling
Gut feeling.
intuition? The gut feeling, you know, you feel that something's wrong.
I do know what you're talking about. Can we come back to that?
Oh, sorry.
Let's come back to that point in a minute. Let's keep on track with this one. What I want everyone to do now is think about that voice. Is there that voice in your head? And did somebody just make a little voice comment about something that we only said and butt it in and change the direction and say, why don't you do that? Did anyone say, so there's this little voice going all the time in all of us. Okay, now what I want you to do is imagine there's a dial out in front of you. A little dial like I drew before. And imagine this dial is like, the old style TVs? The old style TVs where you can turn the dial and you can turn the volume up or turn the volume down. What I want you to do is just reach out in front of you and imagine there's a dial there. And what I want you to do is turn that dial, you do it physically, put your hand out, put your hand down. Now think about the voice. And what I want you to do is turn the voice down. Turn it right down till it's about 1. And notice how the voice gets quiet. So turn it down till it's about a half. Just half, just loud enough that you can hear it if you need to. And just leave it where it's just right, so you can hear the voice, but it's very faint. You've got to really listen. Who experienced that? Who knows that voice actually turned down a little bit? You have control. This is your mind. You have control over all of it. You have control over every thought, every feeling, every emotion. You have control, but what we've got to do is realise or understand how to take full control. So how do we deal with that voice? And how do we deal with these thoughts keep coming up in our mind that end up being our dominant thoughts and overpower the emotions of our vision board? So we've got this great vision, but all these thoughts are dominating us. So one way you can do is just what we did, turn the voice down. If you don't like what you're hearing, turn the voice down. Now, the other way to do it is you make the voice of your mind, your conscious mind, louder than the voice of your unconscious mind. So I do both. I turn the voice down and I raise the other voice. So let's hope I don't disturb too many people here. But every morning I do what's called incantations. Anybody heard that word? What's an incantation? Anybody heard of it? Know what it is? It's a chant, yes. Anyone else? A repeated chant over and over again? Okay, an incantation. So here's what it is. An incantation is an affirmation with movement. So an incantation is an affirmation with movement. Now, affirmations work. When I was 15, I went and attended a seminar with a man named Peter McMahon. And Peter McMahon taught me about affirmations and the power of affirmations. At that time, I was a stutterer. And I had trouble formulating words, I had trouble speaking. My W's were bad, I'd get into a group of girls, I couldn't say anything. And I was just hopeless. And I wanted to be able to express myself. After attending the seminar, he taught me that I could repeat affirmations in my mind, which would affect my unconscious mind and that self-talk, the auditory digital component of my focus. So if I could repeat these affirmations over and over again, then I would have results. And so I started with this one. I speak clearly and well. I speak clearly and well. And I repeated that over and over again. Every time I went to speak in front of a group, I would say the words, I speak clearly and well, and then I'd open my mouth and I'd go, and I'd start. But I persisted. It actually took me 2 years. 2 years of persistently saying that affirmation maybe 5-10 times a day. Is it any time I could remember it? Any time I had to start, I would repeat the words, I speak clearly and well. Now we've moved on from there. I thought that was the best way. But what I found out was incantations are faster and more effective. They're faster and more effective than affirmations. Because affirmations are passive. Affirmations are just using my mind. I speak clearly and well. I speak clearly and well. It's just my mind. Now, the biggest part of the unconscious mind is the physical body, the mitsu. That's the biggest part of your unconscious mind. Now, if we're going to take full control of our unconscious mind, guess what we're going to take control of?
Body.
The body. And so when we do an affirmation with movement, it could look like this. And here's one that I do in the morning. I've done it every morning now for 2.5 years. It goes like this. I command my unconscious mind to give me all the skill, the power, the passion, the energy, the motivation, the determination, the humour. Whatever it takes to move a person from where they are to where I know they need to be. I command it. I will it. And it will be done. That's an incantation. Okay, so it's an affirmation, but it has movement. Or this one. Money is flowing into my life with great avalanches of for abundance. Okay, just big movements. That's an incantation. So it's an affirmation with movement.
So you do it in your own home.
So there you go.
You don't want to go out to...
So in answer to your question, the best way that I know of, you can start with affirmations if you don't want to look strange. But if you don't care how you look, use incantations because you get it done maybe 5 to 10 times faster. Because the biggest part of the unconscious mind is the body. And if you can get the body moving in a different direction, in a different way, you can change your mind. Okay? Pretty exciting? Okay, so that's only 2 of my incantations. I have 7 that I repeat every morning. I repeat them all twice. So it takes me about 10 minutes to go through all my incantations.
Does this not say to go to the gym as well?
Hey?
Does it say to go to the gym as well?
No, I go to the gym too. Well, I don't go to the gym, I do. I just use the park. I'll do handstand push-ups in the tree.
I was going to ask you to do that.
Well, he takes his dog for a run every morning.
Yeah. No, good. Okay, so but big motions. And it's the same thing. Who's ever pulled up to a set of traffic lights and said, the police doing this? What do the police do? They do this. They do, and they do this.
They don't want to get run over.
It's big motion. And the bigger you can make your motion, the more the information will lock into the unconscious. Okay, and the stronger it will be. So incantations. So does that answer your question? Perfect. Let's come back to this question. So your question was the mind and the gut feeling. Okay, and what's the correlation between the two?
So I know that the core is
Yep.
the mind as well, like it's intelligence. As a matter of fact, your whole body is intelligence. Every cell is intelligence.
So it's
So
when
that's
you're
why
danger and
when
stuff.
your movement, it's far greater than just the brain. It's every part.
Yeah, so the gut could be telling the brain something
Yeah.
that the body knows that the brain hasn't caught up to yet. So there's something, you know how you're in a situation and you're about to purchase something, you get this gut feeling that something's wrong. Listen to that gut feeling.
Yeah.
Okay, that could be the good thing. Or maybe not. Maybe that's just your unconscious mind trying to protect you and say, no, you're comfortable here. Stay boxed in, stay boxed in, you're all comfortable. And you get this gut feeling. Sometimes it's a matter of bursting through that
How do you
reluctance.
recognise the difference?
It's up to each individual, it's up to the situation. The only way you can do it really is after having done it, you look back and see what the result was. And you're like, oh, that was the real story.
There's 2 ways you can learn. Mistakes and mentors.
Yes, doing it yourself.
Finding somebody else has done it before.
Correct. Mentors. I'm glad you brought that up. Mentors are actually the fastest way of learning anything. Why? Because you're getting around another person, and guess what happens when you're within 8 meters of that person? You're starting to feel all the emotion. And this is, of all these 3, state is the most important. I'll get to that in a moment. But thank you for that. You know, does that help at all?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's only a band-aid. We could obviously go further into that discussion, but not right here, right now. Okay? All right. How's that sound? Are we getting somewhere?
Yeah.
Let's stop for a moment. Let's stretch our legs. Let's get into little groups, and let's have a bit of a discussion about what we've learned so far, what we've picked up, what can help us in our lives. Okay? Because it's no good just... See, this is information. This is data. It's only when we put it into practice. It's only when we actually do that we raise it to another level. That it actually works for us. Watching somebody else do it is only one part of it. Doing it yourself, that's when it becomes yours. You begin to know for yourself. And I believe it's an everyday thing. That's what I do every day. And I got that from Tony Robbins and others who do these types of things daily. They have a daily ritual or a daily practice of things they do. And so I spend between 1.5 to 2 hours a day priming myself and getting myself ready for the day. And I go through an incantation, it's only one small part, exercise, wheatgrass, there's a whole bunch of things that I do. Things for my health, things for my body, things for my spirit, things for my connectedness to God. I do things for all the areas of my life in that first 2 areas, so that when I go life coaching, I can show up, and be ready, to be absolutely ready and pumped. And what I'll do is if somebody's depressed, they're depressed, get ready, and then I'll walk in like this. How you going? Things going right for me? But inside I'm going, but physiologically I'm building rapport with that person. Okay? Whereas it doesn't work if somebody's depressed and you walk in and go, hey, you know, today it's so great.
Yeah.
No, it's too much. You've got to actually match a person physiologically so that you can help them emotionally. And so I start with physiological matching, then I lift them emotionally. All right, sound good? All right, let's talk. Let's have a chat. So if we could just split up, let's just do groups of 2 with someone that you don't know, and just have a chat for 5 minutes about what you've learned so far.
Play with it.
I started playing
So,
music out of it.
welcome back. Welcome back. Let's just hear from a couple of you just briefly what's something that you've picked up. What's something that's resonated or something that's made a difference or a change in your mind or in your heart as you've been here today. Anybody like to share? Hands up if you want to say something. Hands up if you got
Yes. Yeah, one of the things that got me, Josh, because as you know, I've probably studied a bit of this environment
Yes.
for a while. But one of the things that you mentioned at one stage was components of focus. And although, and I was talking to one of my mentors recently, and I was saying to her, I'm starting to realise that it's my self-talk that is the most damaging to me right now. So, because I'm, in a bad place, struggling, whatever the case may be, but I'm coming up and growing, whatever. But the fact is that components of focus, and for the first time I've kind of looked at it and I've gone, okay, well I'm going to focus on myself. That's what I'm looking at. So I'm writing affirmations. I'm looking for books that are teaching me how to write proper affirmation, because for whatever reason my block was I can't come up with an affirmation. It's like, okay, well then you can't come up with an affirmation. Well, go find someone who can. So that's what I've done. So I'm reading some books or listening to some stuff where they've done something.
Yep.
So that components of focus is really looking at it. Obviously I'm aware of them.
Yeah.
But it clicked something different in my head as to how I'm going to move forward with it.
Great, excellent. Well done. Thanks for sharing. Fantastic. Anyone else like to share something that they picked up? What changed? You share your one? Just share what you were telling us. This is really good.
I was interested to buy a yoga business. Myself is a yoga teacher, and I was interested to buy a yoga business. And just like everyone else, I'm scary because I worry about not enough money. I worry about if I fail. I will lose all the money, and then I worry about how can I do it. And then I was thinking about how I can make my yoga business a success. And I think about worry the other day. Yeah, because I believe yoga is not only the physical exercise, but it's also mindfulness and spiritual sides. And also like, so for my yoga business, I want to make it different and maybe want to bring like your voice events and speech into my yoga business and help me more people to live better.
Absolutely. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you also said that some of these things, she said that some of these things just clicked. She'd been doing yoga for many
Yeah.
years, but didn't understand why the changes had happened in herself. But now that I went through all of this thing, she understands now how the jigsaw of her life sort of fit together. And it's oftentimes we do something and we don't really know the end from the beginning. We just do it, we follow these patterns, we create these things, and then it's only when looking back that we see what's actually happened and we go, wow,
Yeah.
I didn't know it was going to be this way, or I didn't know that, so what I'm saying is, it sort of clicked with her.
Yeah, when I started yoga, I saw a logo. It says 3 times yoga a week will change your body, and 6 times yoga a week will change your life.
Wow.
And now I suddenly click.
Yeah.
The movement, the action actually change your whole body and your thinking, and bring myself to other direction.
And there's many different ways, just because I've shared one different way to do it, there's many different ways to change the unconscious mind. There's many different ways to understand it and to take full control. This is only one that I'm sharing. Incantation isn't the only way. That's the one that I use. Some people use meditation, yoga, and other methods. I do a meditation every morning also. That's part of one of my components, about a 10 or 15 minute meditation. And then I go and do other parts. So mine is the mindfulness part, the mind part, then get up and do the body part, and the physical exercise part, and all these other things. So it's a balance of everything, because I want to move forward, not just in one area, like in spirituality, but I want to make sure that every area is covered. From my relationships to my health and my body, so my body's vibrant and strong, and so I can throw my arm around any time. My body just has to be ready for it, because it never knows any time. I can get up and throw my arm any moment. My body, my conscious mind needs to be ready for that. Any time. Okay, even when I'm cold. So I don't warm up, I just boom, straight into it. And it's got to be ready for me. And I like that. It's exciting. Okay, so but it's about getting that balance, or striving to get. Now, there's never any real balance. People have spoken about balance, and how do you live a perfectly balanced life? You do the best you can. You just keep focusing on this, on that, on the other thing. Little by little, we lift it all up. Anybody else got something to share? Yes?
Yeah, I just realized it right now. You know, when you're like, oh yeah, I want to do this, I want to do that, and then your other side of your brain is like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
It's like, then it's like, you're trying to fight over it, it's like, what do you mean? No, I can't, and then you're like, no, you don't. It's like, and then I realized it's like, we have all our senses, but we only have, well, in a sense, one way to express it, which is through the mouth. Every other senses is an input. This is the output, so you feel its input. You hear, you taste, you smell its input. Your output is your mouth. The subconscious is the opposite. So, no, it's actually the same. Oh yeah, I'm going to get this that way.
This is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Trying to connect the dots. Oh yeah. Because the main reason it's not working when we try to fight it is because we're fighting the same output mechanism of it. It's talking to you, the auditory digital. It's like, oh hey, no, you can't. No, I can. You're talking each other. It's not the input.
It's yourself though. You're talking against yourself.
But that's why it doesn't get into your subconscious, because you're talking to the output side. So how do you talk to the subconscious? Is use its input, which is your feeling, your emotion. That's why he's doing that.
The energy.
Yeah. So for example, I don't have money, but your thoughts and your feelings are always connected, right? It can go from the other way around. So if you're I don't have money, and then you feel shit. right? But then that feeling is your input to reverse it. That's why you feel you do whatever, like your movements and whatnot, and now your brain says, "Oh, what's going on? He's not talking to me, but I feel good." And that's why people say it's like for example, like you know when you're like amped up and to another person you're like really mad, right? And then they're like, "No, you're right, man." And then you're like, he's not attacking me, right? But he's cool. Okay, I think I'm cool as well. So yeah, I think it's the same if we just remember that.
Other people's emotions.
Yeah, even in a fight, you can't really battle out each other talking, but it's more of understanding and actually talking. Yeah, so.
Really, really good stuff. You enjoyed that? That's good, eh? Is that like revelation? That's inspiration?
Is that, yeah.
And this is what we're talking about, connecting the dots. And I promise you, you come to the seminar prepared, you'll be connecting dots all over the place. Why? Because we get the energy up in the room. Because we start moving our body in different ways. Because you begin to think. You see, a seminar is only good if you get people to see things they've never seen before, hear things they've never heard before, and most importantly, feel things to a level they've never felt before. When that happens, when we get people at that level, then what happens is the mind starts doing this. And then you begin writing down. And go home and write all that stuff down. Connect all those dots and write it down. I tell you, there's a start for a book right there.
That's
Understanding how the unconscious mind works. It's just like pure revelation. This is not me. This is the mind. I'm just here to share you what I know. You all know different things to what I know. But we're here as a group together to learn together, to grow together. I tell you, as you were speaking, I was learning. Who felt that?
Yeah.
Who felt that? It's good, and that's the beauty of it. When it clicks, it clicks. It's really exciting stuff. Really exciting.
Can I just add
Yes, sure.
something?
Oh, you come up here, so that's
No, because I'm a computer nerd, right? The main reason- I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk ever. That's why I took IT, just so that I go to work and not talk to anyone. Just talk to the computer. Right, but unfortunately it didn't happen. I got into a work that's different. So, but I was afraid of speaking. But what kind of pushed me to the edge is like that, because if I kind of keep everything to myself, it's like, what if someone hears it and it gets something different to them, and I could have been, what do you call that? I don't think well, obviously it's bad to keep everything for yourself.
Well, it's selfish.
Yeah, but I feel like if I can, just share something that I don't know who can benefit from it, but without me letting the universe use me or something, that I'm doing a disservice to the world.
Yeah.
Opening yourself up, letting it fly.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's give an answer. Reinforce that feeling of growth. And that's what this is. What you've experienced just that's growth. That's the sort of growth. And you know why he's growing this way? Because he's invested. Now what I say is invested. He's actually coming along to the seminar. He's paid his money, he's ready to go. He's invested. He came here to learn. He came here ready to absorb, ready to understand. And what happens is that the universe rewards that sort of attitude when we're invested in something. And that's why if you haven't, the seminar's $100. It's 2 days. It's in April. It's the 20th and 21st. Pay your money. Get your money in. Put it forward. Then when you come to the meetup groups, you will learn more. I promise you, because you're invested. Because you're invested. Okay, there's 3 ways we can spend our time. We can waste our time. We can sell our time. If you have a job, you're selling your time. Or we can invest our time. And when we put forward money, what we're showing is that we're investing not only our time but our money. We're investing in us. It's only $100. It's less than $4 an hour, the seminar. That's what I'm charging. It's like nothing. Okay, I'm doing it basically cost price. Okay, so if you can get to that seminar, please come along. I promise you, it'll change your life. It's seminars. Every time I go to one, I change. I've just signed up for another $7,000 course in Sydney at the end of the year. I'm going to Tony Robbins next month. I continually educate myself. So I'm spending currently about $7,000 to $8,000 a year on education. And that's on doing seminars and learning and understanding because I want to have what Michael just said. Michael, isn't it?
No.
Mark. What Mark just had. I want to have that sort of thing happen to me. So I invest. I put my money forward that I get prepared for the courses and go along to them. And I teach courses in preparation for my going to the next course so that I can be filled up with more. Okay, so I've got more to give, more to share. Yeah, sound good? So my encouragement is for all of us to go to courses. Meetup groups are good, but there's only so much we can do in an hour or two. When you go to an all-day event, or one that goes for a couple of days, you're around people for a lot longer, and the learning is much more profound.
Saturated.
It's a saturation environment.
And
So
the
that's-
relationship increases and the friendships are
Yeah.
just so great.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, I've got a friendship with Maggie and I've only met her for an hour, so
Good.
she's beautiful.
So, yeah, that's my encouragement. Come to the seminar. But anyway, I'll talk about that in a moment. Is this good stuff? Everyone learning something?
That's great.
Everyone's learning, it's great, good.
Yeah.
That's exactly where we want to be. Okay, so this is only the beginning. This actually, you probably don't know this, but thought there's actually 3 steps before you get the thought.
But are you going to continue with the 7 habits?
7 habits, I can do.
Oh, you're not going
I have
to?
no idea where I'm going to go now. I could go to 7 habits.
Sorry.
I didn't actually mean to even share the 7 habits, but I just got into that. But I can do, I'll go to 7
What's the
habits.
other 4?
Let's go.
Yeah, please.
So these are the 3 for the self. Let's have a look at others. Others.
Okay.
I mean, I love the 7 habits because they're great. It's a great way to get started. 7 habits. So the first one of dealing with others is seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Okay.
So listen first.
Seek first to understand. What did I do before I even started my seminar today?
Introduce yourself in
No,
front
you
of
asked us, yeah.
I asked you why you were here. What does that help you do?
Just to understand us.
So I can tailor the information to meet those needs or requests that you have. I sought first to understand why you're here. Okay, it's a good thing to do. It's a good
And
practice
then
to
you
be.
become understood.
And then I understand you. I say, okay, everyone's here. They're here for growth. They're here for learning. They're here for curiosity. They're here for whatever it is. Let's see if we can't give you what you came for.
That's great.
Okay? So we seek first to understand, then to be understood. You're born with 1 mouth, 2 ears, and they should be used in that proportion,
Oh, okay.
especially in interpersonal relationships and communication. Listen. Seek to understand. Okay, which is more than listening. Listening is the first part. Seeking to understand is another level. Seek first to understand.
That's why in marriage counselling, they actually get the couple to speak and they repeat exactly what they said to them. Repeat that back. It helps to understand what they're actually saying.
That's what some doctors do.
The doctors
That's what
do.
lawyers, no, not lawyers.
So a
that's
lot of
what-
people do.
I mean, I see in courts a lot with barristers and
Repeating
with,
exactly what the person said.
with magistrates, and I've heard magistrates just repeat exactly what they've been told, almost verbatim. That's what they do. Showing the person that they heard them and they understood them. They repeat back to ensure that they're understood.
That's part of learning too.
Yeah.
If- For myself to
Yep.
learn, I find if I read something, but if I speak it out loud, I'll learn it.
Yeah.
And you also catch yourself. You catch yourself when you say something and it's all right. In fact, I do documents and I have to read this to somebody. So as I'm reading it out, that's where I find the errors while I'm reading it out. And then I go, oh, just hang on a sec. I'll make these modifications, print it out again. It's all good. Okay, yeah, it's good. So seek first to understand, then be understood. You were going to say something? No? Okay. That's the next one. And this is for, remember, dealing with others. But could we also include our unconscious mind in this? When that auditory digital voice, when that little voice in your head says something, do we seek first to understand? Do we seek first to understand, well, why is my voice telling me this?
Sometimes when you first see a person, the little voice says, well, I don't like the person. How the hell would you know? How the hell would you know? That's judgment. The little voice judges.
So is this the last time I see you?
But that being said, no, but that being said, sometimes it's not just judgment. Sometimes you do have a gut feeling that that person's dangerous.
Yeah.
It could be part of that there's something wrong.
And in my
yeah,
days,
there's something
when I
wrong.
was growing up,
Yeah.
So that's where you
guys that had tattoos were marked. They were marked men. Nowadays, tattoos are good.
Yes.
They're everywhere.
Society's I had to change my thinking. I had thinking.
Still a good person, even with that's right, the
I
tattoos used to
see
be
the tattoos
so
are all bad.
criminals or bad.
Not so
They
much.
should belong to the Navy.
I have sons who got tattoos, I've got to say, I still love him. The tattoos are only good.
I love it.
No, I'm just bringing up that point,
Yeah.
that we get fixed in our way, we've got to wind that voice down.
So we understand. Do we understand the voice? Do we say, okay, what is my little voice? What is the alternative? Is it self-sabotage?
It can be real judgmental too.
Is it over-judgmental? Is it judgmental? Is it judgment? Is it this? Is it that? Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Then to be understood. So we need to understand, we need to work with our unconscious.
I remember having,
Not against it.
that experience where I was at a workplace, and when I was working there was this particular lady I'd never spoken to before, and I absolutely despised her. I'd never had that strong an emotion against someone. So you know what I did? I went out of my way to be a friend, and she was the funniest lady I'd ever met. We became really good friends. It's like, I've never had that, such a negative feeling against someone before. So I thought, well, I'm not going to listen to that. And I went and became a good friend with her, and she was hilarious.
That's great.
She makes me laugh.
Great, good for sharing.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. So, yeah, sorry, she was saying.
Appropriate that, I talk in terms of a little leprechaun. When you talk about self-talk, negative self-talk, you think of the little leprechaun sitting on your shoulder, nagging away, and you just.
You just look it off.
That's good, that's good.
Or the devil and the angel.
Judy Cricket too,
He's
to me.
cutting.
I used to love Kronk out of that cartoon. Was it Emperor's New Groove? Kronk?
The Emperor's
Kronk was
New
the
Groove.
character, and there's always two characters.
Yeah, the devil and the angel.
Oh.
And he literally had his self-talk out loud to these two little
You have conversations with these two little angels. One was the devil.
No, one was the devil, one was the angel.
That's great. That's good. Very funny. Very funny. So where did we get to there? We're talking about there's a process that I do, and you'll see this when you come to the seminar, is I'll actually get somebody out in front and will demonstrate this. It's called parts integration. Anyone who's been involved in neuro-linguistic program will know parts integration. What you do is you take someone who has an internal conflict, and right there in front of you, we'll get rid of that conflict. What would that be like to get rid of the conflicts in your life?
Wow.
No, because part of you wants to exercise, and part of you says, well, sleep's an important part of exercise too. Sleep's an important part of health. You know what I mean? So sleep's an important part of health. So there's these conflicts that happen in our lives.
Yeah.
Like you want to make money, but I have no time for my family. Or you want to do something else. I mean, you know, sometimes it's a choice between two good things. And so there's going to be conflicts in our life. And we need to decide what we're going to do. How are we going to spend our time? What are we going to focus on? All right, now parts integration is a really good technique because what we get to at the end of it, and I'll take you to the end of the process, is we actually integrate. That's why it's called parts integration. We integrate someone so that both sides of them, both for that example before, the devil and the angel, both of them are in alignment together where there is no conflict.
Work for the common good.
Well, in Christianity, it's called hypocrisy. When somebody preaches one thing and then does something else, that's called hypocrisy. You're a hypocrite. In life coaching, it's actually called congruency or incongruency. So when you're congruent, that means that your thoughts, your mind, your body, everything's aligned together. You're totally congruent towards this decision. Incongruency means you're conflicted, you're confused, you're going through this self-doubt and struggle. That's incongruency. It's the same with religion. You've got hypocrisy and you've got, you're totally in there, totally faithful, totally going for it. Now, don't get confused with perfection and imperfection. Some people think they're hypocrites, or other people call them hypocrites, but it's simply because they're striving but not perfect. Imperfection is different than being hypocritical.
It's not being too hard on people.
Exactly right, exactly right.
So the judgment.
But anyway, those are just how those two terms are kind of similar, but in different, one's religious and one's non-religious. Okay? Or one's to do with life coaching, this type of thing. So I normally use the incongruency, but parts integration brings that in so that everything's in alignment together. If we think about our conscious mind and unconscious mind as an iceberg, this is an example that's often used. The unconscious mind is below the surface, and the conscious mind is this little bit up the top. Now, so
Even less than that.
So we have these conscious beliefs, feelings, desires, and then we have the unconscious beliefs, feelings, desires, habits, addictions, whatever else. These things are unconscious. And so here we are going, yeah, I want to be this. And you know what? They probably do. However, they're dealing with this. And the unconscious is way bigger, way more powerful. And here they're trying to resolve something by saying, I'll just focus harder. But unless we come down here and deal with these things, and so what we can do is reach down and rip those things out. And it's pretty exciting, yeah.
Are you going to help us do that?
That's what I do. That's what I do for fun. I help people to go down there and say, okay, what's this limited belief you have? Let's rip it out! Or what's this, what's the addiction that you're dealing with? I've helped a couple of guys with pornography addiction. They're just absolutely just not being able to control themselves. And we've gone there and ripped them out.
Can you help us with what we don't know?
Yes, absolutely.
As well.
See, what will happen is these things that you don't know become more clear over
Open
time.
up. So when you go through, especially like coaching and stuff, things actually open up that you didn't know that you didn't know.
Wow.
It opens up, and then you recognise it. It's like, oh, okay, I didn't know that, now I do.
Wow.
It becomes a knowledge then, and then it helps to be able to fix it, or to sort it out.
I can only take the group, and I can only take individuals as far as I've personally gone. I can't take people beyond that. Now, the reason I keep going to seminars myself is so that I keep progressing. Because when I get to another level, I can help everybody get to this level. And then when I get to here, I can help everybody get to there. So the idea is continual progress for myself so that I can then reach down and help others in different areas. And there'll be others up ahead of me that are mentors for me in different areas of their life. If I looked around this room, every single one of you would be a mentor for me in something. In something. There's some, Emerson wrote, he said, every man is my superior in some way. In that I learn of him. So every one of you is superior in some way. I mean, if I need help with a web page, this is my guy, computer program, whatever. You know what I mean? There's somebody that's just switched on. It's easy for you, right?
The wisdom of the elderly.
This is simple. Understanding code is like simple. I look at code and go, what is this? I don't even know what I'm looking at. Okay, so everyone is my superior in some way. Now, I'm not saying because I'm the mentor, because I'm up here in this area, that I'm the superior in all things. I'm just not. What I can do, though, is take you to where I've gone. I can't take you beyond that, but I can take you to where I've gone. And I tell you what, the last 2.5 years have been amazing. I couldn't even begin to tell you. I mean, people come to see me and they've got pain in their body. Within 10 minutes, the pain's gone. Like, no more pain, no drugs. No Panadol, nothing. Person comes in limping, they got a sprained ankle. I do the technique and they're walking normal. I say, how does that feel? Fine. No problem. And I'm going, is this for real?
Is this for emotional pain too?
Emotional pain also. One guy was that I dealt with had just separated from his wife about a year or so earlier. He was still in emotional trauma. Spun the pain. We did. There's a spinning technique. If you come in 2 weeks' time, actually this Thursday in the city, I'll show you how to do this. Okay, do a whole thing on pain and how to get rid of pain in your body. Like fast, emotional, physical,
What's the name
any
of
pain.
next Thursday?
It's a healing seminar. Yeah. Did you come through the meetup group?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just on there. It's just the next one.
Yeah.
So it's Thursday's healing pain. So what I do is I get people up. I'll bring them up here. I'll say, how much pain do you have? 0 to 10. They'll say 8. Within minutes, they'll be at 0. It's fantastic. I don't even know.
Is it just for that moment though, or do they take it home with them?
Can be for the moment. It depends how strong the unconscious mind is, and it depends how much doubt they have. See,
so
once
they keep practicing it.
Yeah, they can doubt. Anybody can go 2 ways. Anybody can unravel the process, or anybody continue deeper into the process.
Yeah.
It's like that idea of the matrix. How deep is the rabbit hole? How deep is it? You can stop at any time and turn around and go out and say it's rubbish. Anybody can. But I know, like I've probably helped 150 people in the last 2 years eliminate pain in their body. All pain. It's so amazing. I can't even believe it. It's just an incredible thing. And before that, I didn't know anything about healing. Not really. Not a great deal. I knew about faith and prayer and things like that, but I never really knew about healing. Not the way I do now. Now, and I'll explain it next week, on Thursday. So if you are available, come on down. I'll show you how to get rid of all the pain in your body. I'll show you how to create any good emotion you want in your body at the moment. It's fantastic. It works really well. Okay?
Number 5, we're up to.
Oh, sorry. Okay, Karen,
That's number 3.
now, it may surprise you, but I can keep going all day. It may actually surprise you, but this stuff is so exciting to me, and
You want to share it?
I want to share it. Because I want you guys to experience it. I want you to have these experiences in your life. When you start using this, it just, the whole world opens up.
Definitely.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's incredible. Okay, so seek first to understand. The next one is think win-win. In a lot of the interactions that we have, it's win-lose or
I've got to be
lose-win
right and you've got to be wrong.
or
Otherwise,
lose-lose.
yeah. So the other person can win and you can win as well. Doesn't have to be
That's right. So
one loser.
if you pay me money for a service, my goal is to deliver that service the best way I know how. Now, it's your goal, it should be yours to get the value from the service. I can't do that. I can only give you all that I can give you, and it's up to you to connect the dots, just like Mark here did, and put things together. That's your job. So when you come to the seminar, you pay to come to the seminar, I'll do all that I can to make sure that you're a winner, that when you leave there, your life has changed in some way. Okay? That's my desire. Okay, but I think win-win. Now, it's not any other combination, lose-win, win-lose, or lose-lose. And that's how many of the interactions that you're used to happen. That's why when you leave a business transaction, you feel bad about it. Did I do the right thing? These negative feelings? Don't feel good about it. There should be a good feeling about it. You should have this desire to... Now, I understand buyer's remorse. That happens, and sometimes we've got to work through that little voice and say, no, just like Melinda showed us. Say, no, this person could be the funniest person I'll ever meet. Sometimes we've got to do it that way and say, no, I'm going to push through this. I'm going to make myself spend this money because I know it's good for my life. Yes.
Thinking of our relationship, it
Yes.
always used to be
Win-lose.
win-lose, win-lose, win-lose.
Yeah, there's always a
Now.
See, he has a different perspective on that.
Well, I went that way. When I turned, then it was win-lose, win-lose, win-lose. But now we're win-win. We are actually in our relationship where it's win-win. So we've moved on and it's great.
Well, I want to learn that. Win-win.
Win-win.
I don't want to be on the losing end anymore.
The next one.
But you don't want other people to be on the losing
That's
end
it.
either.
No, I
That's the
think
service. They
that's
give
why
you
they've
back.
always won, because I've always made sure they won.
Ah, fair enough. But in that's right, in
So
retrospect,
that's
you've
why,
lost.
yes, I have.
Don't make yourself a martyr. And that's the problem. If you make yourself a martyr every time and you become a sacrificial lamb,
It hasn't been equal, and
And that's
it's left me lost.
it leaves you empty. What happens is you
You
suck
lose
dry.
yourself, you know.
That's right, because you give and give and give, and people take
This is
take.
fabulous.
Yeah, we spoke about last in the relationship course. Actually, talked about emotional vampires and a few other things. So that's what they are, and they can suck you dry, and then eventually you're just left.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually working with a woman at the moment whose relationship is really rocky, and she feels as though he's one, a narcissist and an emotional vampire. And it's very difficult. So what I do is she comes on to me and I build her up emotionally, and she goes back, and she's like good for like a week, and then things go. And I said, at the moment, what I'm doing is like you said, it's a mentor thing. However, it wears off for her after about a week, so she's got to keep coming back, get topped up. What my goal is, though, is to eventually give a man a fish to feed him for a day.
Yeah.
She's got to be self-sufficient.
That's right. But you teach a man how to fish and he feeds himself for a lifetime. So the idea of the seminar is to teach you how to fish. Is to teach you how to build those emotions inside yourself.
Yep.
You don't rely on somebody else to do that for you. Okay? That's exciting. Okay, next one, synergize.
Meaning?
Synergize is working together. The best way to describe this is looking at oxen teams. When you have a single oxen, the oxen may be able to pull maybe I don't know how much an oxen pulls, I just can't guess, 2 tonne. Let's say a single oxen pulls on 2 tonne. So you would think that if there was 2 oxen yoked together, they would pull 4 tonne.
Yeah.
It's not, they actually pull 6 tonne.
Wow.
So there's something amazing that happens when they yoke them together, yoke 2 oxen together, and there's an incremental increase. So what happens is the old synergy, if you get synergy in a relationship, it's 1 + 1 = 4.
Yeah.
So what happens is synergized relationships can actually move you forward. And like I said, there's relationships here that we can easily form with the yoga instructor over here. You know, there's things that we can do to, if I help her, she can help me, we could combine forces, we can impact more people in the world. Make sense? So we work together with our different various skills and talents. What can I do for you? How can you do for me? Let's synergize, let's work together and create more. Rather than being, no, me, I'll keep what I know, I won't tell you anything. And I hope you know that I'm being really transparent. I'm telling you all guys everything. And I know this is a free seminar, but I want to give, I want to share. I want to get that journey happening for yourself. Get that enlightenment happening. So the idea is synergize, working together. That's teamwork. The last one is sharpen the sword. Sharpen the sword. There was 2 axemen chopping down trees, these 2 axemen. Chop, chop, chop all day. One of them kept going away for breaks. So one of them would go at the back of the house, come back in 10 minutes later, and he'd keep chopping. Whereas the other one worked straight through the day, no breaks. Didn't break for lunch, didn't break for anything, took water on the go, kept going, chopping, thinking, I'm going to win. What happened was, at the end of the day, the one that kept having the breaks had almost twice as much wood chopped.
Wow.
The other man was like amazed. He was like, what is going on? He said, how did you do it? How did you chop so much wood when you kept having breaks? He says, breaks? I wasn't having breaks. He said, I was behind sharpening the sword, sharpening the axe. So what he had was a stone behind, he was sharpening the axe, coming back and chopping it twice as easily. Make sense?
Yes.
So the idea is you want to sharpen the sword. We need to keep ourselves in peak state. In peak state. So the idea is we're going to practice our craft on ourselves. Then we're there to help others. So that's why I do my 2-hour routine in the morning, so that I can be there, so I can show up. The first law of life coaching is show up for your client. Make sure that you're there and you're in a peak state, that you can bounce off them emotionally when they come into the room. All right? So those are the 7 habits.
So the thought thing back there now, I want to find out that.
Oh, okay, so we're finished this session.
Time to finish.
All right. I'll give you this as well, because knowledge is not about information, it's about application.
Yes.
So I can share all this stuff with you, and I know that most of it, however great you are, it's very difficult to apply. You'll be able to apply 1 or 2 concepts at a time, but that's about all you can fit in your conscious mind each day. I mean, applying all of this would be like a... So that's why I'm happy to share it all with you, because what we do in the seminar also is I overload your conscious mind with so much information that I then just begin to shove the stuff into the unconscious. That's how it works. Okay, so you bore the conscious mind, then shove it into the unconscious.
So you open up,
Absolutely.
and then you receive.
But it takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time to open up and allow the unconscious mind to have direct access.
But that's why suddenly a thought that you've never thought before will come to you. That's the unconscious mind saying, I know this, but suddenly it clicks with you. And that's where you go from you don't know what you don't know to something you do know. So it jumps in.
Sure. Okay, so let's go before thought. What creates our thoughts?
Emotions.
Emotions. Emotions. If you're feeling happy, what type of thoughts do you have?
Happy thoughts.
If you're feeling sad, what type of thoughts do you have?
Usually sad thoughts.
If you're feeling angry, what type of thoughts do you have? Thoughts of revenge, thoughts of hurting somebody, thoughts of hurting yourself. Okay? If you're depressed, you know what depression is? It's anger without enthusiasm. Okay. So before here we've got emotion. Alright? So before our thoughts, we have emotion. Now the funny thing is, emotions create thoughts, thoughts create emotions.
Right.
Emotions create thoughts, thoughts create emotions. However, the building block of thought is emotion. It is the building block. Now before that, before emotions,
Feelings.
we have feelings. You've been to one of these before, Melinda. Before emotion, we have feelings. So I'm running out of room here. So before emotion, we have feelings. For example, you may feel pressure. Is that an emotion? The pressure that says, go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
That's not an emotion. That's a feeling.
That's a feeling.
That's a feeling, right?
Quick, go now.
Listen, you're not going to go with me, are you?
I'll take it every emotion.
Guilty!
Yeah.
Okay, so feelings. Okay, so when I do this, does that create a feeling?
Absolutely.
That's a feeling which then leads into an emotion. What's the emotion? Excitement, movement, creates excitement. It's a feeling. Okay? So when you do something, shake, whatever, create a feeling in your body. Okay, so how do we create feelings? Easier than we can create thoughts. All you have to do is move something, and you create a different type of feeling. Okay, jump into cold water, that's something else I do actually each morning. Okay, do what's called a cold plunge. Once again, and I go into this, we've got the autonomic nervous system, which is composed of the parasympathetic and sympathetic parts of our nervous system. What happens when we go into cold water is we reset the nervous system. Okay, so that's why there's actually talks in there. You go on YouTube and find out about the cold showers. Whatever. You do it all the time? Yeah, good. So all that's good because it resets the system. So if you're living in stress, if you've got high levels of, they call it homeostasis, where you're living at this elevated state,
Yeah.
okay, and you need to get rid of that quickly, cold shower is the fastest thing to reset the
Or
nervous system.
hot bath for me.
Or hot. Or hot and cold. Hot and cold.
Yep.
Okay.
Resets me.
I haven't tried the hot, but I've done the cold.
Fantastic.
No, I haven't researched the hot either.
No, that's not silly.
He's just saying that's what he does.
Okay. So feelings, what's before feelings though?
Cold is freezing.
What's before feelings? I just showed you before. Physiology.
Physiology. Yeah.
Physiology.
The movements and
So if I want to be excitement, if I want to feel excitement, all I need to do is
Express it.
touch my hip. It is to feel excitement.
That's why
What I've done here is created an anchor. If you've ever heard of Pavlov's dogs, Ivan Pavlov, the psychologist, taught that triggers and anchors rule our lives. So what he had was a number of dogs who would salivate when he placed food in front of them. And what he did was he decided that before he would feed his dogs, he would ring a tuning fork or a bell. And so he'd ring the bell, then place the food out several minutes later. What he noticed was, over time, they began salivating just at the sound of the bell, because the sound of that bell meant food was on its way. And so the dogs would begin salivating. They would produce this salivatory response even though there's no food there. And so several times he didn't feed them, but they were salivating like crazy. Salivation is preparing their mouth for food. So we have triggers and anchors in our own life. Now, you can either set these up in your life unconsciously, which I know most of you do, or you can consciously take charge of your life by setting up the triggers that you want in your life. That's what we do in the seminar. And so I get excited, then I touch my hip. So that puts all that energy into this point. All I need to do later on in the day is just touch my hip, and those feelings rip through my body.
So you can feel it through every part of your body.
There's been different times.
You're not a threat to society.
No, that's exactly right. I don't get locked up.
He used to have a different trigger. He used to have the hard one, but tell the story about that. He used to go like this.
Well, there was a speaker speaking. It was actually in the church meeting, and the speaker's up on the pulpit doing their thing, and I was feeling tired. And my anchor at that point was on the chest, like this. Anyway, she thought I was having a heart attack. So I'm going to stop the service, get the ambulance here, get someone. Yeah, so I changed it. I changed it to something a bit more subtle. A bit more subtle. But I've actually, one experience that I had, I was at work one day, and I was just feeling a bit tired, and I thought, oh, I need to get some more energy in my body. I had something I had to do. And so I touched my hip and I actually felt chemical reactions happening in my brain. I actually felt it. See, our chemical is the warehouse of, so the brain is the warehouse for the chemicals in our body. I think of our brain as like a pharmaceutical company or factory that dispenses chemicals. There's about 100, I don't know how many there's, more than 100 different chemicals is what I've heard are in our brain. I've only researched a number of them like serotonin, dopamine, adrenaline.
But we can bring these on naturally
There's heaps of others.
sleep exercise.
These chemicals also create feelings, emotions in our body. These chemicals also give us
And they're natural. Like what happens if, like,
When there's a
drinking or
balance.
smoking or drugs and even doctors' drugs, that must mess up everything.
Crack specifically, if a person takes crack, the drug crack, what happens is perhaps a month's supply to 3 months' supply of chemicals in their brain are used instantly. So what happens is when somebody tries to get off drugs, those good feelings that they used to have when they exercise are no longer there. So the brain is actually starved, like it's used up all those chemicals in one instance, and there's none left. Does that make sense?
So how do you build it back up again?
Well, you've got to start the drugs.
You've got to
It
start
actually
the
takes
drugs.
willpower at the beginning,
Rebuilds
and you've
eventually.
actually just got to start the drugs for up to 18 months for
Wow.
full functionality to come back to the brain.
Oh my goodness.
So drugs are very bad.
Yeah, there was a recent 18-year-old girl. She was a crack addict and she tore her eyes out.
For our eyes.
Yeah, it was on the news.
Oh.
Because she's
Poor
having
eyes.
like a hallucination saying that she needs to remove her eyes. And
Oh.
yeah, but then afterwards, she was kind of changed. Her perspective was changed. and-
Was she blind? Is she blind or something?
Yeah, she tore out her eye.
That's horrible.
Yeah, but now she's like, oh yeah, don't do drugs.
She had inner sight. She had inner sight.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a good change. Something visual components gone. Interesting. So anyway, that's the presentation today. We sort of went through a number of different things. Physiology, there's the feelings, there's the emotions, there's the thoughts, actions. What we want to do is create habits. And that's what we'll be creating through the seminar, is we create habits, we create anchors that will then move your life forward once the seminar is complete. So that you can continue with the energy and the excitement of the seminar and continue to make things happen as you move forward from that seminar. So that's really what we do. Just using that same technique that Pavlov taught, that he was a Russian psychologist, with the dogs, we use that same thing with our body and our nervous system to create good emotions and feelings in our body. Okay? And that's really what it is. But anyway, thank you very much. Before we go, any questions at the end? Is there anything that anybody would like to know about the seminar or about anything else?
Yeah, can you tell me some details? I haven't heard about seminar.
You haven't heard about it? The seminar goes for 2 days, and they're big long days. I don't do things by halves. And so over 2 days we run the seminar. Access World Seminars does 4 things. One is seminars, one is workshops like we got here tonight. The third one is life coaching, and the fourth is neurological repatterning, where a neurological repatterning session is a shortcut to success. So what we'll do is go through a few processes where I'll make suggestions and commands directly to the unconscious, where a person can get change in a very short amount of time.
So not 2 years like.
Yeah, so instead of waiting for a long time for something to happen, we can actually make those changes very rapidly by dealing directly with the unconscious.
You might need to tell them where it's at.
Oh yeah, I've actually got some handouts over here. We can grab those. I need you to have a look through that, see if we can find those handouts for your seminar. Now, so the seminar is 2 days. Now they're big days, I understand that. They're big days for a reason. We actually go from 9 in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. So they're 12-hour days. They're big days. It's on a Friday and a Saturday. The reason we do that is, as Chris was explaining before, it's a saturation environment. Okay, we learn more when we're saturated inside that environment. Okay, the one that I'm going to with Tony Robbins goes for 6 days, and it's 9 to 12 hours a day. So actually, I think it's...
Great games.
I think it's up to 14 hours a day. Yeah, so Tony Robbins, he's a
Is it the 20th and 21st of April one? Can you hang on to that? I've got to find
yeah, there's a mistake on one of them. There's an August.
No?
It should be at the back there somewhere. Is that
it?
it?
Yeah, there's another one.
There's a mistake on there. If it says August 2017, that was last year's
Cross
one.
it out.
Yeah, just cross that out. It's actually up in the top right hand corner. You'll see the correct date. So if yours has the wrong date, look in the top right hand corner.
Oh, here we go. Here's some more.
There's 2 days to the seminar. The first day is called Unlock Your Incredible Self.
Pass them along.
Your commitment to yourself should be to discover who you really are. Unlock your incredible self and unleash that in you. Okay, that's the first day. So the first day is self.
What do I do for the next month?
Well, if you would like to see me earlier, I do life coaching.
the
I
August
do
one.
neurological replanning sessions. I do charge for those services. I actually charge $200 an hour for the work that I
The one
do.
that doesn't work.
Because I'm speaking with the unconscious and because of the change we get. That's why I suggest to most people the seminar. It's $100 for 2 days. That's the best place to go. But if you would like some sessions and to deal with something specific, then we can certainly make some big changes in that area. Okay, well, whatever it is. So $200 an hour. I normally I'm pretty generous with my time, so I normally do those out for about an hour and a half, but that's what I currently do. Anybody in this group though, I'd be happy to. I'd be happy to halve the price of that, so I'll give you 50% off. So if you would like to do a session between now and the seminar, let me know and I'll do it for $100.
Does a lot happen in one session?
As much as you would like to have.
Okay.
So if there's an issue in your life and you know what it is, then, and it all depends on the preparation work that you've done and where you're up to are up to that point. So, yeah, sometimes I send out forms so that somebody can do some of the work, some of the background work, so when we get to the session, we can just move straight into the
Focus straight
session.
on the thing.
Okay? Alright. So 9 till 9. First day is Unlock Your Incredible Self. The second day, we do 3 parts. Communicate with influence. Now, communication is one of the major components to good relationships. And so we're really looking at relationships, but communication being the part of relationships where I think most of the work needs to come, where most of the work needs to be developed. So we spend
because we need to learn the win-win situation
Absolutely.
rather than the win-lose or lose-lose.
Correct. Correct. Okay, so communication will be a third of that day. The second third of the day, we'll have wealth creation. So wealth creation, there'll be a small component on physical health. How we can make sure that we're taking control of our body, which means regular exercise and all these things, and how to get our unconscious mind to work with us when we're desiring great health. Not just good health, but great health, phenomenal health.
Just out of curiosity, can you start? Has everyone got the what's the date?
Yeah, we
It should be at the
It
top.
should be the April one.
It's at the top.
There's some that
Oh, is it wrong
no,
way?
there was some that I handed out that I think August.
Yeah, I'll change yours.
Yeah,
that's fine.
The top right
Change
is correct on all of them. The top right is correct on all of them.
August, yeah, date isn't right.
Okay?
Yours is right.
So, and then the final component is to do with connectedness to God, spirituality, coming full circle. What we do is we say, well, what's your purpose? Now that you've learned these things, like Mikey was talking, what are you going to do? Is it enough to just be like a bucket and just keep it to yourself, or are you going to be like a mirror and share it? And so the idea is once you learn some new things, go out and have experience with it. I mean, the only reason that I got to where I am now, with all those people with limps and everything and pain, is because I went out like a madman and just practiced. I was doing up to 3 or 5 a day at one stage. Just everybody. They'd say, I've got a headache. Oh, I can fix that. Anybody at work. Like I had one woman at work, she's a lawyer. She said, I've got a headache. I said, I can fix that. I can show you how. She looked at me strange. I said, well, let's give it a go. Can only help, can't it? She said, oh, yeah, fair enough. And we did technique, it was gone. She was amazed. And then she went back to work. I do this all the time. It can be used in any situation, and it's quicker than drugs. I mean, you take Panadol, it takes 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, this stuff, if you know the technique, it takes 3 minutes. If I've got to explain it, it'll take about 10. To get the explanation out, just so you understand what we're talking about, and then we go into the technique. Okay? But it's valuable, it works. That'd be helpful. How much could we cut down on pain medication? If everybody knew this, everybody believed it, everybody did it. It'd be incredible. We'd have a transformed world. Okay, so it's up to you to go out and share this information. It's up to you to gather it and then take it out and disseminate it.
So can we invite like other people?
Absolutely. So, just by a show of hands, who's interested in the seminar? Who will be there as a definite?
Oh, we're going to pay.
Great. So there's a few there saying definitely going to pay.
We've already paid that.
So we've still got a few people up in the air. If you can make it, I encourage you to do so. I'm not going to take or collect any money off you today. But go to the website and fill it in. This is where it's up to you to do it. Because you go home and that little voice will start on you. That little voice will say, maybe it's not for me. Maybe I won't get it. Maybe it'll be a waste of time and money. Or I don't have the time. Maybe you don't have the money put aside for that. There could be 100 reasons why you shouldn't do it. 100 reasons.
But if there's a big enough why to do it, that's better.
And that's what I'd encourage you is to say, people say I can't afford, and I think to myself,
Why not?
you can't afford not to. Really? Do you want to take control of your unconscious mind? I can give you the information, but in a 1 hour session, we can't do it.
We can't practice it.
We can't get through. And the other thing is, you might take control after the first seminar, but then after 2 or 3 months, what happens, Ben? Honestly, what happens?
You lose track, whatever.
Life happens. And when life happens, guess what? Suddenly those old thoughts come back to roost, and it becomes this vicious cycle. And so once we've made this change, the idea is to pattern the change until it becomes a habit in that thing. Then we move on to another thing. Now you might come and think, I want to change everything in my life. What I would suggest is just pick 1 or 2 major things, and that's it. Stick with that. Then pattern those things out until they're really good. Then include 1 or 2 other things.
You don't
try to do everything at once.
Otherwise it's overwhelming.
People who do that fall flat. Okay, so just 1 or 2 things, and then you come to another seminar, do it again, another seminar. So my recommendation would be to do 1 or 2 seminars a year, make it a consistent part of your growth, and I'll tell you what, you will get phenomenal changes. Phenomenal changes.
But next Thursday, is that?
Yeah.
In what time does that start?
That starts at 6 p.m. And it doesn't have to be with me, you could go with anyone. There's many people doing what I do. There's 2 meetup people here who run meetup groups as well. Go check out their stuff, it's great.
So just remind us next group will be using this room in 15 minutes.
No worries. All right, we'll wrap it up. All right, thanks guys. We'll have to finish there. But thank you very much for your time, and let's get back.